So we need to trust in the sovereignty of God and the goodness of God. How many have heard the name George Mueller? He lived in the 1800s, and by faith and prayer alone, God provided 10,000 answers and provided the needs of thousands of orphans and several orphanages in England during his lifetime. Well, towards the end of his life, he was, I think, 60 years old. He lost his wife, Mary. They had been married 39 years. He loved her dearly. And he preached the funeral sermon. He preached the sermon from Psalm 119, verse 68. The text is, "Thou art good and doest good." And this is how he opened his sermon. "The Lord is good and doeth good. All will be according to his own blessed character. Nothing but that which is good, like himself, can proceed from him. If he pleases to take my dearest wife, it will be good like himself. What I have to do as his child is to be satisfied with what my Father does, that I may glorify him. After this my soul not only aimed, but this my soul by God's grace attained to. I was satisfied with God." He came to find satisfaction. The Lord took his wife, but he understood God is good. And God is going to satisfy the place that my wife took in my life. He's that big. He's that able to do that for me. Another saint by the name of B.B. Warfield, who was a world-renowned theologian. He taught at Princeton Seminary. Many people don't know the details of his early married life. He married Annie Pierce Kincaid when he was 25 years old. And as a newlywed, they took off for their honeymoon in Germany. There was a violent thunderstorm, and his wife was struck by lightning. And she was paralyzed permanently for the rest of her life. And B.B. Warfield, for the rest of his life, cared for her needs for the next 39 years. He cared for her as an invalid. Now, he was still a professor at the seminary, but he couldn't leave her side for more than 2 hours at a time. So he would go, he would teach his class, he would come back and care for her. Then he'd go back and he would teach again and come back. She died finally in 1915. You say, how in the world did he have the strength to go on day after day, year after year for 39 years and do that? Well, I think we learn from his comments on Romans 8:28. This is what he said. The fundamental thought is the universal government of God. All that comes to you is under his controlling hand. The secondary thought is the favor of God, or we could substitute the word goodness of God to those that love him. If he governs all, then nothing but good can befall those to whom he would do good. Though we are too weak to help ourselves and too blind to ask for what we need and can only groan in unformed longings, he is the author in us of these very longings, and he will so govern all things that we shall reap only good from all that befalls us. That was his strength. He believed Romans 8:28. He really believed it, and he trusted it, and he walked by that truth day after day after day of his life. Do you remember William Cowper? We talked about him last Sunday. The man who tried to commit suicide on several occasions, but wrote some of the most glorious hymns that have been handed down to the church. These are some of the words of one of his hymns. Judge not the Lord by feeble sense, but trust him for his grace. Behind a frowning providence, he hides a smiling face. Now, providence means the things that God allows to take place in his world, the things that unfold. Behind a frowning providence, you look at the world and you go, this is crazy, this is hurtful, this is painful. Behind those frowning providences, he says, God hides a smiling face. He's going to do good. We have to believe that all these barriers and all these troubles, that God is going to transform them and use them to bring good in our lives in the end. John Piper, in his book Future Grace, wrote this: the key to patience is faith in the grace of God's glorious might to transform all our interruptions into rewards. The strength of patience hangs on our capacity to believe that God is up to something good for us in all our delays and detours. Now, can you believe that? You think, why am I having to wait so long? I don't like this. But God is up to something good. You know, if I had believed when I had to wait behind that car before I met left-hand turn lane, that if I had gone then, I would have been in a fatal accident, I would have been really happy to stick behind that car for another turn. And if we really believe that God is up to something good, we will be happy to endure the discomfort that takes place in our lives.